This is Ask Congress, and we're very happy and proud today to have with us one of the most distinguished members of Congress and one of the most long-serving as well, the Honorable John Conyers, who is the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, having served a number of years as well as the chairman of that committee. John, it's good to have you here.
Lester, it's great to be back with you. I remember we came to Congress at the same time, and you've been doing media work even before you became a member of Congress, and you still are.
Well, I'm still around. Anyway, John, last night was the President's State of the Union. What did you think of it?
Well, it was so comprehensive that there's hardly a subject on my agenda that he didn't touch upon. It was an amazing performance. I think it was still not in excess of an hour, but that was a pretty comprehensive set of objectives that he outlined for his last term as the 44th President of the United States. And it was detailed, it was determined, and he was making a statement of what he wanted to accomplish as opposed to trying to make entreaties to the conservatives in the Congress that they negotiate with him.
The one point is the fact the liberal wing of the Democratic Party has been somewhat critical of the president for not having fulfilled some of the objectives that he had campaigned for.
Oh, yes. You know, progressives always criticize their own. You know that as a person that was when you came to Congress and before, you were working in civil rights and other for peace, supporter of Dr. Martin Luther King. So, yes, he's come under his share of criticism from his progressive supporters. But I think he's made it clear from his inaugural address and his State of the Union address that it's a new day now, and he won't be running again, so he's free to tell it like it is.
Actually, your committee has responsibility for many of the things that he spoke about.
Exactly right, we do.
Immigration, for one.
Immigration,
do you think
gun
we're going
violence.
to get? You think we're going to get any significant legislation on immigration?
I feel better about immigration than I do on some other things, and the reason is several. First of all, most people, especially employers, know that they need immigrant workers, and that's a big thing. Two, what are you going to do with 12 million people that are already here? And so he's worked out a path toward earning citizenship, which ends this horrific problem of breaking up families. The kids are born here in the United States, and so we ship their parents back to somewhere else, and that just creates another set of problems.
One of the things he did say is the fact that that we should reform not only the immigration laws generally, but specifically to encourage people to come here legally.
Exactly, and what he's doing is setting up a way for those that are not here legally to become that there is a path, education, learn English, serve in the military, deport yourself in a way that there's no law enforcement problem. And then you will have set yourself up to be able to be eligible to be considered. But you have to go in back of the line for all of those who have legally applied and are waiting. And so what we have to do is modernize and reform the law of immigration, because waiting for years and years is no way to be doing business. Some of these talented people we need right away.
Well, this country was born, actually.
Aren't we all immigrants,
by
more
immigrants.
or less?
Yeah, you know,
everybody.
the Native Americans are the only ones that really can claim a native status.
Right.
The question, however, goes back to another element, and that is the Republicans seem to want beefed up border security. Now, will that be part of the new immigration law?
Yes, it will. Now, actually, the security issue is becoming less contentious because they're more effective now. They've been modernizing, and we know that there'll always be some kinds of border crossing violations, but it's much better than it's been. But they want to satisfy the severest critics, and he's indicated a willingness to make sure that we don't miss any tactic or strategy that would make border security right there up at the top.
Mm-hmm. I want to get to another area in which you have been very much interested in, I know, and that's the question of gun control.
Yes.
When I say gun control, I mean that's a very specious description of what we're talking about. Control of violence, violence in many forms. I know that you've taken the leadership in the abuse of women and violence against women.
Violence against women is a whole separate subset of this. Violence against women started back in 1993. We were working on it, and in 1994, you'll remember Pat Schroeder and Louise Slaughter and myself introduced the first Violence Against Women Act, which for the first time spoke to this terrible problem of female abuse coming out of relationships with spouse or dates or whatever relationship a man and a woman may be engaged in. And it includes men too, by the way. But the whole idea of what the Senate just did is so important, because every woman in the Senate voted for this new law, which has expired over a year ago.
How do you think the House is going to act on it?
Well, we had a press conference with Leader Nancy Pelosi, and it is our suspicion that because it's always been bipartisan, that it will continue to be, and we're moving ahead. We have women that have come forward into Congress who were victims of abuse, and they've taken the leadership.
But the bill was brought up in the last Congress, wasn't it? And failed.
No, I think it never got to a vote. It was supposed to have been brought up.
I see.
But what we're trying to do this time is we don't need any more hearings on the subject. You can build up hundreds of cases, I'm sorry to say. What we want to do, and our appeal to Speaker Boehner, is to take the Senate bill and send it directly to the floor. We think we've got the votes for it.
Mm-hmm.
And this time it includes discrimination or violence against women that apply to immigrants, to Native Americans, which, by the way, they have the highest rate
Mm-hmm.
of violence against women of anybody.
Can we impose something upon the Native Americans, even though they are nations among themselves?
Yes, I think we've worked that part out. That's an important part because they are separate from the United States, and I'm sure that has been already worked out. But it's a important. Lesbian, gay, transgender are all included in this new bill. So what we want to do is get it to a vote, because this is the first president, although President Clinton and President George Bush signed these bills in law way back in 1994.
You know, something strange. There was a segue that we had from guns to violence against women. And what has seemed strange is the fact that we've seen in television a number of women now are starting to arm themselves.
Oh, yes. There's been an increase in gun sales. But speaking of how we reduce the gun violence, is that we have to have background checks
Mm-hmm.
on every sale of a gun, whether not just the gun shops, but even in personal transactions as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tremendous undertaking because, quite frankly, we're a gun culture. We've got to do more than just pass laws.
We've got to cut away from you for just a moment while our local stations come into fore, and we'll be back to you right after that.